Let's hope that this works because I just changed the stream key. And a little.
Heute sitzt man wieder Chinesen-Touren. Gletscherbrisen unter Mars, Bier vom Fass. Checken wir's ab, sitzen wir's aus. In einer Viertelstunde kommt vielleicht der Roberto vorbei. Und dann kaufen wir uns ein bisschen Gras. Er kann mit dem Grasen nicht schwer sein. Anders Gras. Schaut euch das Gras an, anders Gras.
If you're just tuning in, we're starting at the top of the hour with KelvinD Kramer, and we're going to talk about everything on the planet. And in the background, you're hearing a German version of Frank Zappa's Montana. The lyrics are somewhere on the internet.
Wir haben keinen Job.
And bring your questions. Get your questions in early, and be ready to copy and paste them because the YouTube stream goes quick. Just want to say I play bass on this recording.
Hartes Gras. Im Spessart und Karwendel rauchen wir's auf. Man kann im Freistaat sich sowas schüppeln lang. Mei, sagt mir, es kommt schon Gras. 6 1 von uns verwurzelt, dann geht man raus. Mit Ferner, in das Meer soll ich einfach die Tür an Holz Bier hinlegen. In das Meer soll ich den Untergrund gehen, zum Obi stehen. Die Blätter spüren. Wir trinken Bier ohne Hass, weil man braucht kaum glauben. Es könnte ein Versuch.
And here we are in Sansar, with KelvinD Kramer in the basement. And Kelvin, wave to the YouTube audience, to the plentiful YouTube audience.
Which way is the camera?
That's a
is it over there?
question. That's the camera. Like, hi, Mom. Are you on Sansar TV? There you go. That's it. Yeah. Welcome to the Drax Files Radio Hour Sansar edition. I'm also going to go into VR so I can also wave around. We're here in the basement. It's a replica of 114 Harvest. I always say this. So if you go into 114 Harvest in Sansar right now, we're not there. We are in an alternate universe. Kelvin. I mean,
is it also a replica of the real 114 Harvest IRL?
That's a really good question, and that will be revealed at some point, probably next week on the 24th, where I am actually going to be at the real 114 Harvest. But the real 114 Harvest does not have a basement, actually. It has no basement. Yeah.
But it does have all of your stuff in a bunch of boxes like this.
Yeah, I'm always on the move. Okay, so let me introduce you, Kelvin. So Kelvin has been on the show before, on the Drax Files Radio Hour. By the way, this is the Drax Files Radio Hour with Joe Yardley. Joe is of course not here because she shuns us. She has enough of us of mansplaining virtual reality. I think that's her thing. So, Kelvin, I'll have you introduce yourself also, but you sent me a little bio blurb. You've been in Second Life for a long time. You dabbled in all sorts of virtual worlds. I really appreciate your opinion. And today I want to talk about immersive virtual reality, social VR, and if it's really that social, because we talk off the air a lot about things such as the immediacy now of some, for example, facial tracking. That's sometimes it's not for everyone. That's just one example. A lot of people actually prefer mediated exposure and something like Second Life, where there's a screen. And I always tell the story of Ricardo's Raymaker, who was a good friend of mine, who was here in Sansar, and he had a beanie on. And then because we're in beta, the beanie was taken away by Linda, not because they broke the previous content when they uploaded the next version of Sansar. And Ricardo's was very much into his beanie and the representation, the embodiment that he had, and he was not able to come back into Sansar. And then Kyle Matzarat, a friend of mine, made a beanie for Ricardo's, and so he was able to come back. And so we're going to talk about all this stuff. But how would you describe yourself? You sent me a bio blurb. You're a fisherman. You're a ham radio operator, like my dad.
Yep.
You're also you have a background in coding and programming from before I was probably even mentally conceived, because you're really old, which is also like I mean, you said that, not me.
That's part of the problem. That is part of the problem. Is I'm so old. This avatar looks way too young, and it makes me uncomfortable.
Let's go right there. Introduce yourself, quick bio blurb, and then let's go right there with the representation that we have available. So how would you describe yourself if I met you at a party?
Okay, I've been a geek since a nerd since junior high school.
Mm-hmm.
I was in the AV club in junior high school. I worked in the AV department in my high school. I didn't fit in. I got along better with adults than I did with my peers.
Mm-hmm.
I've always been interested in technology. I wrote, the first program I ever wrote was in Apple Basic.
Wow.
And I wrote basic programs on a Commodore 64 for a job that I had. I actually was making professional use of BASIC on a Commodore 64. I've been on the internet since before they called it that. I'm kind of an early adopter kind of guy.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm in my mid 50s,
mm-hmm.
and all of the social VR things, Second Life included,
mm-hmm.
it's difficult to find a middle-aged or semi-old guy to use as an avatar.
Mm-hmm.
And the default of everybody looking like they're in their 20s gives me that same uncomfortable, uneasy feeling that I had when I was in my 20s,
mm-hmm.
and insecure.
That is so well put. And we're going to go right there. I want to make sure people on YouTube, please give us a heads up if the audio is okay, if our both of our mics are kind of, semi-equal in loudness. Please let us know. Or if one person is much lower than the other one. I get pretty good levels here. We have Vasai, we have Silas, we have Daisy, and we have Space Sailor, who put in CQDX. Is that your
diddly boom de boom?
My dad still has an entire room full of the ham radio operator magazine. Now, what you said is important, so let's pick it up here. We now have, and you included Second Life, which I like, because in Second Life it is in fact quite difficult. It's gotten a lot better, but it's still difficult to get decent, let's call it middle-aged skin for any ethnicity, male or female. But here in Sansar, in this beta stage, it is pretty impossible. We're forced to have these avatars that are fairly, I mean, I really like them, but they are generic.
Well, when you say we, this is a little unfair. Everybody except for you.
No, I mean, exactly. That came up with Kent Bai last time from Voices of VR, and exactly. And Kent actually thought I was sort of body or embodiment shaming him. I wasn't. I really wanted to bring this to the table and to the discussion. the inequity that comes from the fact that some people can afford to create something special. And in my case, I had also Kyle Mazaratz, basically make me up like I am in Second Life. I guess
Right.
that's what you mean, right? Because I'm not off
That
the
is, that
shelf
is
in
what
that
I
sense.
mean. That is what I mean, and that's part of the point of all of the young people in Second Life, in Science Space, in what have you. Part of the problem is I want to look like me. Another part of the problem is everybody else is fit and beautiful, and I know in real life they're not. But there's that thing that happens when you meet someone who is supermodel, movie star, beautiful. It puts you in a different place emotionally, socially. There's some assumptions that I make when I and it never happens. But on the rare occasion that I meet a world-class, stunningly beautiful woman in some social setting, that's a person I don't talk to.
Wait, so are you saying like when you go to Costco, you don't meet supermodels every day?
It's funny. They don't show up at Walmart or Wendy's. Yeah. But yeah,
Wait,
if
here's
I
a
see,
supermodel just stepped in for the radio listeners. Who are you? Joe Yardley. Oh, Jesus Christ.
well, here's another perfect example. The of all of, oh gosh,
Joe, I'm
this is
sorry,
what
you gotta mute your mic. It's breaking up quite badly. Let's until we fix that, please mute it and join us in chat, and I will read the chat for now. Kelvin, go ahead.
Joe Yardley is a perfect example. You're in the 1920s Berlin at one of the happy hours or something or other, and there's all these gorgeous 20-something women, all of whom make me uncomfortable, and I'm loath to talk to, aside from standing in a corner and shooting out inappropriate double entendres. Joe I can talk to because her avatar is a middle-aged woman and a little, pardon me, frumpy. That is average. That is, she looks like a normal person. The SL version of a normal person.
Right.
That puts me at ease. I have no problem walking up to her and striking up conversation and paying her a compliment for her work and what have you. Most of the other avatars make me uneasy.
This is really well put. Now what? Okay, can you please disable your mic, Joe? It's really bad. And also, I'm asking the YouTube folks again. Silas is saying, or somebody says, I sound like I'm by the water or something, and I could be louder. Is what I hear. Voice is kind of muted by the sound of the water, says Silas. So I don't know what you guys are talking about.
That sounds like a compression artifact. Live streams sometimes get those compression artifacts, and it sounds gurgly.
Yeah, but it bugs me that the mic should be, let's see here, it's at 100%.
I doubt it's our fault. I think it's something in the middle.
Actually,
it's YouTube's fault.
Yeah, it could be. It's always YouTube's fault. Now, you were saying, but let me ask you now, you're making a very good point. So we are forced to a certain extent, to a large extent, if we're not customizing, or in beta worlds like this one, we can't fully customize yet.
Right.
That we're forced to a let me just call this a homogenized version, or an idealized version. But Kelvin, I'm gonna play devil's advocate. I mean, don't we all want to look like supermodels? I mean, and the industry, the platform providers are doing us a favor by providing that and enabling us to do that?
That's an interesting point.
And the reason I bring this up,
I think probably for the most part, yes.
Rosedale for the movie, and he did say, and I don't know if he I forgot if he was citing a study or something, or if he just said that he feels like that, but he said most people just want to look like a better version, a younger version, a more physically fitter version than themselves. And I was kind of cringing at that statement, frankly, because I'm very much with you. So go ahead.
I think generally that's probably true, but I don't think that I'm normal. I don't think that I'm average, intellectually, socially, emotionally.
Mm-hmm.
I think I'm advanced intellectually and stunted emotionally. Joe can probably attest to this. But so for an introvert like
grumpy.
myself,
mm-hmm. Go ahead.
Yes, and actually that makes me feel more comfortable because she reminds me of my mother, who always looks grumpy. Unfortunately, she will never see this. So, anyway, where was I going? Oh,
well, then you're not the norm, and that was,
I'm not entirely the norm. I'm an introvert, and I suffer occasionally from social anxiety. I'm mic shy. Fortunately, my years in ham radio have allowed me to get to the point where I can only lose a couple hours sleep for the past few nights getting ready for today and cope. But I could not claim that I wasn't terrified about doing this. I was. But I managed to push through using all of my coping mechanisms, but I've got them all firing on all cylinders right now.
Kelvin, I totally appreciate this. It is really wonderful that you are that you have chosen to do this, and I would not fault anyone or be mad with anyone who would decline this or even like pull a last minute I can't do it. I mean, this is really kind of a stepping out, but this is so fascinating. So you're describing yourself as quote unquote not the norm or an outlier. And now my question is, because it is so clearly marketed not only by Linden Lab but by this whole neo VR crowd. If you look at the marketing material, and again if you look at many avatars that are provided by the platform providers, it seems to be very clearly marketed towards a very specific crowd. And undoubtedly market research has been done to identify that that's kind of what they want. So my question to you, we're talking about social VR, not games. We're talking about social VR. Is it not a little bit worrisome that the social VR worlds seem to be limited like that? Hopefully not for long, but in my mind, a social VR world can only not only survive but thrive and really, be true to their mission if it provides a place for everyone, including the smallest little minority.
Well, eventually. I would say eventually. I think most of them are doing the right things. Sansar and ScienceSpace and VR chat to some extent. High Fidelity. I think they're doing the right thing by aiming where they're aiming, because I think they're aiming at the center at the peak of the bell curve, and perhaps some of the shoulders. Mm-hmm. I'm an outlier way out here, and I understand that. But Second Life is for 15 years old almost.
Yeah,
I've been around for 12, and still to this day, if I go in with a regular avatar choice and then fiddle with the sliders to make me look as tall and as heavy set and as unfit as I am in real life, and I'll explain in a moment why I want to do that, I look like someone tried to make a snowman with mashed potatoes. But in ScienceSpace last night, this is my first foray into there, I fiddled with the sliders, and I thought it did a fantastic job of a normal-looking, heavy-set guy. It did great. And then I started walking around and looking at myself walking, and I don't think there's any such thing as an AO like there is in SL. If you don't have an AO when you walk in SL, you walk like this.
Right.
Well, the default gait and stance when I stopped walking looked like I do. It walks like me. It stands like me. It's like, okay, I'm immediately more comfortable here, even though I'm not one of the beautiful people, and I'm surrounded by a bunch of beautiful people. The way that they, if they come to the table with assumptions, if they see a person like me and make some assumptions, they're making the right assumptions because that's how I look in real life. And if they guess that I'm a certain social status, if I'm a certain income level based on my appearance, they might be right because I might make myself appear like I am in real life. So those current assumptions are correct.
And only that's because of your choice. I mean, again,
because of my choices.
You choose
yes.
that. Other people may choose exactly the opposite for whatever reason, not because of deception, but for many, many reasons. That's another sort of myth that most people try to deceive others, but there are many, many other reasons why people would choose a certain embodiment.
Yes, be it a gender difference or an age difference or size difference or whatever. But I can't say I can't say I entirely like the fact that I'm 6'3" in real life, because there are basements in which I hit my head, and there's social situations where everybody in the room can see me. If I sneeze or say the wrong thing or whatever, everybody in the room can see me. In an airport, I'm easy to spot. But over these 56 years, I have, well, probably 36 or 40 since I've been this tall. But over these decades, I have become accustomed to what that's like. So going into Second Life and finding that all the avatars are 9 feet tall, it feels a little unsettling. I prefer to be in 1920s Berlin, where people have got realistic size avatars, and I just barely fit through all the doors, because that feels like real life. But the assumptions that I make when I see another avatar, I'm probably making subconsciously some ridiculously off-base assumptions, because that's not who they are in real life. And so the things that like Philip Rosedale is trying to do with a real sense of presence with the low lag in the audio stream and his very realistic looking avatar, I can totally see doing business meetings in VR and it not being silly because everybody looks like them, sounds like them, acts like them. All of the unconscious cues, all of the nonverbal cues that happen about the pecking order around the boardroom table are going to be accurate.
That's a good
point. But if everybody's a 24-year-old supermodel, that kind of upsets the apple cart. Although in the early offing, I think they're absolutely correct. I think that's what most people are going to want. I feel inadequate. I feel ugly. I feel overweight. I feel too old. I would rather be younger, fitter, more beautiful. I think that's normal. I don't think I fit into that very well, but I do think that's normal, and I think it's a smart direction for them to go in the early days.
In the early days, again, I find it. We need to, in my mind, we need to put pedal to the metal and provide more choices in order to really accommodate people and accommodate niches and minorities, so that they can create the sorry, my real life phone was ringing. See, this is still not completely immersive. It's terrible.
Hello.
This phone is not working yet here. Now but I'm not saying you're contradicting yourself. I think you put this really well. So it's not for you, but for the platform providers, this might be a good way to kind of set a foundation. I would argue though that the foundation should be started with diversity first, and then kind of go from there. If we keep arguing what the norm is in terms of avatar choice, we might very well create basically sort of a cookie cutter situation, and people may like that. Some people like gated communities with very sort of stringent rules about what kind of plants to put there and stuff like that. And and we know that in Sansar this is not going to be forever, that there's not going to be these gender norms. It's been already been criticized quite a bit. And Linden Lab is aware that they need to provide the skeleton sooner rather than later so people can build upon it and build their own person.
Yeah, that's a good point, because all of the VR things that I've seen are very binary as far as gender is concerned.
The binary, yeah, and what I'm saying when I throw this to you is what I find problematic sometimes is that the choices that are offered, paper or plastic, that creates a conditioning in people to kind of over time believe like, yeah, whatever, that's kind of it and that's cool, and then they believe sort of, cool, I have blue Converse versus red ones.
There's.
Did you just look at your Converse? You were just looking down. That was
I
funny.
did. Yeah, I looked down and I don't see my shoes. It's very unsettling. You know what else I think is interesting?
That's the other thing, yeah, with the body.
There's something I noticed in Sciencebase last night that really impressed me that Sansar does not yet have, although I'm sure it's coming. Not only do I not have legs and no feet, I am just a pair of blue hands hovering in front of me with lasers. I have no shadow. Joe had a shadow until just a second ago. You have a shadow. Yeah, everybody else has a shadow. In Sciencebase, I could see my own shadow. And I could look down and see my own feet. And I thought that was interesting. I noticed and appreciated that right away. Anyway, I was in Sciencebase. I was accidentally started with a female avatar. I was struggling to find how to change it. I Googled how to do it, and it said, click on this thing at the bottom of your screen. I didn't have it at the bottom of my screen. By default, when it popped up, it kind of went the full size of my screen, but dropped a little bit. So all the buttons on the bottom of the screen were below the edge of the window, or below the edge of my monitor. So that's how I got lost. So anyway, I'm trying to figure out how to maleify this young woman in a short skirt. And I thought, okay, let's grab that hair. And I tried to put that hair on me, and it says, you can't put that hair on because it doesn't match your skeleton.
That's right, and there's
right. Male and female hairstyles, for crying out loud.
Yeah, I think that is problematic. That is definitely problematic, and that really needs to change. Yeah.
Yeah. But as far as diversity is concerned, that was an interesting thing in Sansar. I think it's still true that everybody has brown eyes. I'm a blue-eyed person with blonde, short hair. There's a bunch of hairstyles available, but in many different social VR things, if you choose short hair, it's basketball player, African descent, Afro hair, short. It's a fade. You can't have. Now maybe they're just trying to stay away from the skinheads and the flat tops and the whatnot. But diversity being what it is, I can choose to dress in a black man's avatar and hairstyle and what have you, but I apparently can't be Scandinavian.
I think and we know, I mean, we know, at least we hope that we know, and we know that we hope that this is very temporary and this is changing. But I do find that you put this really well. I find this problematic. It reinforces a binary thinking, and the diversity that is present in Second Life, that really needs to be a model, I think. And the only model, we discussed this before, you could say is maybe VR chat, because it's so easy to change your avatar there and go completely nuts and go from like, tiny little non-humanoid whatever to a giant dinosaur or a gigantic anime character that is 50 feet tall. I'm looking at the YouTube chat real quick. One would imagine the diversity will come as the platform grows, says Virtual Phnom Penh here. Yeah, and I think that's what the platform providers kind of bank on, that the diversity comes with the growing of the platform. But that's a chicken and an egg proposition, right? Because if people are kind of turned off by the limitation of the platform, they may check it out briefly and then they will never come back.
Yeah, I wonder about that. You've got this fantastic avatar that an expert made for you.
Mm-hmm.
And you alluded earlier to people being able to afford to have an avatar made. Here's an interesting thing. For 2 or 3 years now, since the very first 3D scanners started to go crazy, and when Oculus was getting close to release the public release, I have been searching with some regularity for where can I go, get myself scanned, and pay someone to make my avatar for SL and for high fidelity and for Sansar.
Mm-hmm.
I can find people who can do part of it, but the part that I can't find is someone who will actually make the avatar that works in SL or works in Sans. Well, SL I can probably find, but works in Sansar, works in high fidelity. I can't find someone. I suspect that everyone who knows how to do it is someone who makes their own, maybe makes one for a friend, but they don't advertise that as a service that they sell, because that would be the end of anything that they ever do. They would be inundated with so many orders,
right,
that all they'd be doing is churning out ugly avatars like the one that I want. And that's not what they want to do. They want to create new things.
But there is Dupe 3D, and I don't know how expensive it is. I'm actually going there next week. Dupe 3D, they have a bunch of stations around the world, of course, only the major cities, and you can get scanned there, and then they can give you a model, and that works with high fidelity. Doesn't work with Sansar because the skeleton is not released yet. But you said something really, really important that made me think while I was watching you. Now the avatar here, you worked around with some customization with this shirt that is cool. You are customizing with existing things. You mix and match them. You have hair that is slightly gray. You have this pipe which gives you a professorial vibe together with the coherent stuff that you say.
It's the only thing that makes me feel old enough is the pipe.
So, but now see, as I'm looking at you, and I want to discuss it, this is so interesting. Now I'm looking at you, and now your embodiment as it is today will probably get stuck in my head and associated, like you were saying earlier, when you go into sort of the supermodel virtual world. I'm going to have your name, although I do know how you look in the real world, but your name will be associated with this particular avatar for a while. And if we get into a place where we can change it more, hopefully soon here in Sansar and other worlds, is that a problem? It's like is that the same, like, oh my God, he had plastic surgery, I can't get used to it? Because I said earlier the anecdote with Ricardo's, who is also not the norm, and that's very good. That's why I like him so much. He could not.
He's a breath of fresh air.
He couldn't come into Sansar because the hoodie, the beanie was gone. The beanie has become very quickly, even in the alpha testing phase, the closed beta testing phase, the beanie had become an item that made him comfortable in this particular world, in this particular context, with interaction with other people. There's social anxiety involved as well. So this beanie was the symbol, and taking away the beanie, by the sheer normal procedure of beta where things break, was to him a temporary death sentence for his avatar.
Well, I don't know about death sentence, but certainly traumatic. I have an anecdote that touches on a bit of that. So I came back into Second Life after getting a better computer around the same time as my first marriage was starting its downfall. Mm-hmm. And we eventually decided that we were going to separate. We were still in the same house for a while, but the writing was on the wall. We knew the direction we were going, and we weren't going to make anybody miserable about it. So we would go together to clubs in Second Life and dance with people, but she would meet other guys and I would meet other gals, and neither of us was acting jealous and what have you. She eventually decided to do other things at other places to not be around me, which was fine.
Mm-hmm.
I ended up kind of virtually falling in love with someone in Second Life,
Mm-hmm.
and was spending all of my time online with her and doing things she wanted to do and going to different dance clubs with her and what have you. And she was a very accomplished builder. And she asked kind of carefully, cautiously, because she knows people identify with their avatars, would I be willing to take some suggestions on my appearance? Because, of course, I was doing my best to look like an average, frumpy, middle-aged man. And I said, sure, that's fine, whatever you want. And we went shopping for bodies and skins and hair and what have you. And she turned me into this buff, ripped, young, gorgeous guy.
Mm-hmm.
We go back to the club where everybody knows both of us. She owned the club, actually. And they're asking, who's this new guy you're with? We thought you were in tight with Kelvin. It is Kelvin. So it threw people off. But then, for the next several months, that's the person they saw all the time.
That's a
eventually, at the suggestion of my SL girlfriend, I got on OkCupid, met someone in real life, and she says, you need to go that direction, and she basically broke it off for my benefit.
Wow.
So you really need to have one love relationship in your life, and I can't be stopping you from going forward with your life. So she backed out, and I immediately turned my avatar back to a frumpy, average-looking fellow. And the same thing happened again. I run into people that saw me with some regularity, and they thought, "What happened to you?"
This is such a wonderful story, Kelvin, because does it show? I mean, I don't know. Does it show us that the avatar is nothing more and nothing less than a transformation that in the physical world we usually do with clothes? I mean, in the upper echelon we might do it with elaborate
Right.
plastic surgery and some Botox and stuff. But in the virtual world, it's the clothing and it's the accessorization, I guess, that enables us to do that. But on the other hand, it also shows actually a wonderful fluidity that may be good, because you were able to, people were kind of stunned first, but then they accepted you, when you went back. So it's kind of like, oh, he cut his hair off, oh, now he has dreadlocks. And
there is a real life story about that. Allow me to regale you,
please.
I worked as a truck driver, as a motor coach driver. As a motor coach driver, I had a uniform, but I didn't look good, so it didn't matter. But then I've been working in high tech off and on for most of my adult career.
Wait, why doesn't it matter when you have a uniform and you didn't look good? Uniforms sometimes make people look good, I guess, is what you're saying.
Well, what I'm saying is I don't particularly care for someone to be able to tell me what I can wear.
Oh, I see.
And they gave me a uniform, but doggone it, I made it look frumpy. So I was fine with it. Anyway, most of the time I've been in tech. Most of the time I've been in companies that are typical for tech companies, where unless you are in front of house, unless you're in a sales meeting, unless you're meeting customers in person,
Mm-hmm.
you can wear jeans and a t-shirt.
Mm-hmm.
And your t-shirt can say something funny or offensive, and nobody cares. Your t-shirt doesn't even have to be clean, and your jeans can have holes in them. Mm-hmm. Nobody cares, because you're one of the guys in the back room working on code or working on support or whatever. Got the job that I have now, and I've had for a little over 10 years, and it was a business casual environment. Mm-hmm. But in particular, you cannot wear tennis shoes, you cannot wear blue jeans, and you have to have a button-up shirt with a collar. Mm-hmm. And that really bugged me, partly because I had almost none of those of clothes that qualified. Mm-hmm. But it also felt like, who do they think they are, the 1970s IBM? that's not what this world is like anymore. But I got used to it, and then I found it's something with a T. M. Taylor came out, and you do a full body scan basically with your iPhone. So you set the iPhone down in the corner, and then you go to the middle of your living room in your underwear, and you do the hokey pokey, and it does a scan. And then you tell it how tall you are, and their algorithm figures out all of your measurements, and they make custom tailored dress shirts that fit perfectly.
Wow.
And they're a lot cheaper than you would expect a custom shirt to cost. I ended up buying 7 of them. Fast forward about 3 years, I now am so used to how people out in public treat me wearing wool dress slacks and a well-fitted long sleeve dress shirt that I don't think I want to go back to going to work in jeans and a t-shirt. I would maybe do it on Friday if we ever had casual Fridays, but I was forced to adapt, not for a love interest this time. This time it was because of the man keeping me under his thumb. I was forced to adapt, but since I had to do it 5 days a week, 52 weeks a year, I got so used to it that became my image of myself.
The self-image, that's amazing. And then let me guess, because this is sort of changed you, and you're describing this in positive ways, and you don't want to go back. So I guess the man sometimes the man knows what's good for you, even if you don't. Goddamn the man. But now when
when he's right.
When you came into Sansar, now let me guess then, because this shirt is very cool, and I saw it on the marketplace, and I was always like, oh my God, why does not everybody buy this shirt? But you're the only person in Sansar that has this shirt, although it's theoretically available to everyone who can buy it. So
I did run into one other person who was wearing this shirt, but I suspect that I pull this off like nobody else can, and the rest of them just, that's it. We're done.
I completely agree, and you will see. I mean, this show will cement this. I mean, this will be renamed, this shirt. But is it also something that you did now that you had this quote-unquote transformation in the physical world, that when you went into Sansar, that you started looking for button-up shirts, collared shirts, and not for T-shirts?
Yes, back when I was working for Oracle, and before that Retech, when I was in SL a lot and screwing around with, virtually screwing around, I would wear T-shirts, and I would make my own T-shirts. I found some template for T-shirts, and I would make funny sayings so that I could walk around in a T-shirt that no one else had. They say, "Oh, that's a cool shirt. That's hilarious. Where can I buy that?" And I'd tell them, "You can't. I made it myself." "Oh, that is so cool." I enjoyed that, the exclusivity. So I felt a little bit of what you feel on a regular basis, being the world famous Draxter.
But I'm also I'm a front-facing, if you will, I don't know, a media celebrity, and I say this without sort of a sense of glee that I'm so famous or whatever. The Draxter persona, who is me to 90%, is projected visually with these signifiers, and because of the fact that I have these goggles on. It's actually not that hard to have made me, or Kyle Matzarat, who made the dreadlocks and the goggles and the headphones. Didn't have to mold an entire head to bring me into Sansar, so that was an advantage. But that's why I ran into. I mean, you're bringing this up now. I mean, when you come in, are you jealous? Do you feel a sense of jealousy? Because I think this is actually a serious thing, and this is happening in Second Life too. There's a sense of peer pressure, and there's a sense of one-upping the other person, in terms of, in Second Life specifically, with mesh heads and then with bento mesh heads and whatnot. So, I mean, it's inevitable that the virtual space is going to be a mirror of that race, and keeping up with the, what is the saying? Keeping up with the Joneses?
Keeping up with the Joneses,
Yeah.
yes. Well, the perfect example of that is Strawberry Singh.
There you go. She is ruining it for everybody.
She has got it going on. She terrifies. She not terrifies. What's the word I'm looking for? Well, she puts me at a huge disadvantage.
Mm-hmm.
And she's cool. She's gorgeous. And I'm happy to say that I'm friends with someone who's friends with her, and that will have to do.
Mm-hmm. But do you feel intimidated in the sense that she...
Intimidated, that's the word I was looking for. Yes,
but is it
I find her intimidating.
But it's because she has this, she projects this fashion sense, and she's this fashion icon. But I really have met her in a context where she would, and that is interesting. I completely know what you're saying, and I think when I first met her, I felt exactly the same way, because in a way, Strawberry's persona in Second Life, or what she represents, put me back into middle school and high school, because she represented a very confident woman that was also had impeccable fashion sense and would probably not, right? And wouldn't probably never talk to me. Yeah.
Completely unapproachable. Yeah. I feel that completely. And she's got the voice to match.
Yeah.
Her voice is silky smooth. So there's no, I mean, that's one of the things that's funny about SL. You see a beautiful person and you're chatting with them back and forth, and their text chat seems consistent with their character or whatever. Mm-hmm. And then for whatever reason, you get on voice chat with them. And anybody who ever gets on voice chat with me after getting to know me via text for a while is taken a little bit aback by my high, squeaky nasal voice. Mm. It's not as high as it used to be, but it's all that pipe smoking.
Because they really think like you sound like Barry White. You should be sounding like kind
of. Maybe I need to have a darker complexion on my avatar. I don't know. But yeah, Strawberry has got a voice that is consistent with her visual appearance, with the persona that she's got. Her voice is spot on. Mm. And so it's difficult for me to believe that that's not how she really is in real life.
That's right. Yeah. But we don't know that, and neither do I. Honestly, I don't know if I ever publicly said that, but I've known Strawberry for almost 10 years now, and I don't know how she looks like in real life. I have no idea. And we talk all the time, and we talk off the air.
It's a closely guarded state secret.
No, but I admire. It's so interesting because I really admire that. It's her management of her, her public life is more professional than a lot of celebrities' management of public life. True. Wow, how did we get to Strawberry? I gotta IM her and say, hey, we're talking about you right now.
But here's an interesting thing, that virtual social VR and these whatnot. If someone were to be the spokesperson for a diet drink or a athletic shoe or whatever, we have seen it happen in the real world where someone, in order to continue to be part of that brand or that string of movies or whatever, that franchise, they got to keep the weight off. Mm-hmm. They have to torture themselves in real life, because if they gained 15 pounds and they could no longer look the way they look, they're out of a job. Mm-hmm. In VR, that's not the same story. You could be any shape that you want, kind of, sort of.
Absolutely, and I actually think that's going to change. That's a really good point. I mean, we're going all over the place in a way that I really love. I love these conversations, and Kelvin, this is very invigorating, in fact, and I hope the listeners like that too, because now you're bringing up this subject, which I think will fundamentally change our relationship with. With quote unquote celebrities, or public figures.
All the people who can make fantastic avatars like yours are going to be in the high six figures soon, because they're going to be making the Dr. Phil avatar for his one little visit into SL, but they're also going to be making the Luke Skywalkers and the, what have you. If celebrities have any interest in coming and doing this sort of thing, Reggie Watts is the closest thing to a celebrity I've met in VR. And someone made him a very good-looking, for the thing that was alt space.
Yeah, for alt space, yeah.
But the best alt space I've ever seen, they made a Reggie Watts for him, and that's awesome. But for Sansar, for Sandspace, for VR chat, for high fidelity, where the photorealism and level of detail keeps on ramping up, there's going to be a huge market for people who can make the celebrities look exactly like themselves, so that, because they've got a lot into their image. I mean, every person, not only do they have their personal image, but it's also the brand. You're the Draxstar brand, and there's the Strawberry Sing brand.
I want to shift the conversation a little bit as we're going towards the closing top of the hour. And people, please comment in the chat and also ask questions if you like to us or what. Here, Virtual Phnom Penh says, "I improved my avatar looks to make better photos, not so much for socializing." And but it's nice in social situations to have a nice looking avatar too. Daisy Gator says Bruce Willis is already here. Yeah, we know that Gindipple has this Bruce Willis avatar head in Sansar.
Yeah, but Daisy could bite his head off.
Yeah. But you're talking about realism, and we're going back full circle to what we talked before, because also Theanine, who is a wonderful artist, made Daisy's avatar, made the Super Gecko's avatar. He made an anime avatar for me, which I paid him for because I wanted to have this anime avatar. He's making a female anime avatar as well. And Theanine has expressed publicly among the creators in Sansar that he feels that something that is non-realistic is not appreciated, and I don't want to misquote him, so I'm not quoting him, I'm paraphrasing completely. The focus on realism is bad to the exclusion of other visual aesthetics. And I can see that, but also Sansar is a very insular place still, because it's not really being marketed yet to the broader public. So again, this is kind of what we talked about in the beginning with that realism.
Real beta, right?
Yeah, but the realism again. I mean, will it? I don't know. I've become a cultural pessimist. Will it stifle the imagination that we can't go beyond this realism, or will it just be homogeneous realism? Where are you going?
I wonder if I have a battery going low in one of my touch controllers, because it keeps on shifting where I am. Oh, I'm facing backwards in my room, so the two things that track where I am keep on getting shadowed by my my enormous posterior. In real life, this one's not so bad, but the one in real life.
See, then you're glad after all that you have this avatar.
Yeah, you take the good with the bad. Yeah.
But I mean, again, I mean, we talked about this. Well, I really don't. I really want to see a world succeed that has more than just a binary choice and a realistic choice, but that really comes with the people. So people need to shape the world. The world
goes again. This is crazy.
Hey, this is my microphone. This is my own microphone. Hello. Boundaries in VR. See, but now what happens? See, because for the radio people listening, Kelvin is wandering around aimlessly. Now, this is akin to the sort of snafu situations in Second Life when people
leg walk
or undress themselves accidentally, and you bump into people, and that can create enormous social anxiety. We touched upon it a little bit, but let's close with that big subject. Yes. Let's close with the subject of social anxiety, because we're forced here to show our movements. I mean, we're not forced to be in VR, but if we are, the whole selling point of Oculus Rift and the Vive right now is that we have this body tracking, and the companies are working hard to make this very, very real. But the question is, do we really want it?
I think we do. I think even normal people who are in the middle, within the shoulders of the bell curve, I think they want it. because I think it doesn't take long in any VR thing, even in desktop mode, even in Second Life, people begin to associate with that avatar, with that image, and when it suddenly turns into the Ruth default avatar, it is really unsettling. You know, I've heard people tell traumatized stories of inadvertently getting Ruthed, or you know, something locking up and suddenly they look like an imp or an orange turd, and they can't go back online.
The
And
context,
you know,
the Ruth avatar is basically the kind of ugly default avatar,
yeah,
female
the
avatar in
original
Second.
one from way back in 2004 or whatever.
Yep.
Yeah.
Sorry, I want to interrupt you, Kelvin, because I want to actually, I was making a different point, and the point was that do we want the immediacy of accurate facial tracking and body tracking is what I'm saying. Because the more I work on this documentary that I keep talking about, I learned that people enjoy mediated environments and they enjoy, screen-based or 2D worlds, desktop worlds like Second Life or Science Space, which does have a VR component, because they don't have that immediacy. They don't yearn for that immediacy. They don't need it for their presence. It actually gives them peace of mind that they're not fully immersed, which is the selling point of the Neo VR. Mm-hmm.
And that's a good point. That's a good point. In the early days of Second Life, it was a new thing, and you meet new people. You walk into some area, and someone immediately sends you a friend request, and my social anxiety went up.
Yep.
Yeah. And I logged off, and I found someplace else to go that was quieter, but I got used to it. And partly, I found myself doing things in SL that I wouldn't do in real life, interacting with people that I wouldn't interact with in real life, because of that mediated buffer.
Mm-hmm.
I could remind myself that's not really me, and sometimes remind myself that's not really them. And there's this stuff in the middle, and if someone sends you a text chat message, you can think about your response. You could be looking away from the screen. You could have gone to the kitchen to get a drink or what have you.
Exactly, and that's what I'm saying.
Exactly,
yeah. But now we are we not losing this to some extent?
We are. Yeah, we're jumped into a situation where by default everyone's talking in voice.
Exactly.
And all of the stuff from junior high school has come rushing back.
Exactly.
My first visit into VR chat. I go into some place where there's nobody, and then I go to another place where there's two other people, but they're not talking. And then I went to some place where the room was full of other avatars, and they're all running around, and they're all talking in, I think, Italian. And someone came up right into my face and started asking me questions in Italian. And then asked me in Japanese, do you speak Japanese? Do you sprechen Sie Deutsch? Parlez-vous français? And I panicked. Fortunately, I looked down in the corner and noticed that I was still muted, so I just did this. I pointed at my head and shook my head, and he said, "No microphone?" And I pointed at him and nodded, and he went away. And then I went into another room. But my pulse was racing. I was sweating. I was going bonkers because someone was like right in my face and needed to talk to me.
This is a perfect example. This is exactly what I mean. And I don't have a solution for this. I want this to be on the awareness radar of the platform providers, especially because right now in this sort of transitional phase, in this building phase for the platforms, the interaction between voice and if you choose to not use voice text is not solved. And I know they're working hard on
really
it.
Clumsy.
When Ebbe shows up at the Atlas hoppings, he does. I do believe him that he's aware and that they are wrecking their brains around how to solve this sort of elegantly. But you're putting this really well that it can open up many traumas for a lot of people, and we keep talking about normal and not normal. It's even irrelevant. We need to be very conscious that people communicate in different ways. And yeah, and if we want to create a idealistic society or a better society, or if we want to imagine it, then shouldn't we look a little bit beyond the the advantage that extroverts have in our sort of in the physical society? I mean, that's not news that extrovert people
No.
are being sort of rewarded in many ways, and Second Life broke that apart a little bit. And virtual worlds have, I think, in my mind at least, have that potential, and that potential needs to be realized.
Yeah, well, and how many science fiction things have you read or on rare occasions seen on TV or in a movie?
Right. Thank you
Where
for acknowledging that I don't watch any of this crap and I read. Joe
Okay,
is not here
but
to.
but how many times have you seen that in the world, in the home of the future, you'll be able to come in and say, turn the lights on, and the lights will go on, and you're going to be able to say, play this music, and that music's going to play, and
Yeah.
there's the Amazon Echo and the Apple Hub Home, whatever the heck it is. I almost bought one of those things and then realized that even when I am home all by myself, there's no one within earshot, I would feel weird
Mm-hmm.
talking to the speaker that's listening to me.
Mm-hmm.
In order to do so, I would rather have a remote and push it to change the
There
channel.
we go. It's
Because
really
I don't want to talk to the computer.
yeah. It's forcing a paradigm shift onto societies. I mean, again, I'm not telling anything new. I mean, there's plenty of good Adam Curtis documentaries. See, these I actually do watch uh, about how Silicon Valley forces sort of their ideas of what they want society to look like onto people, and then people, and with enormous sort of overconfidence that people will accept it, and then unfortunately, oftentimes they kind of do before they realize that's not really what they actually want. And you're absolutely right. I mean, nobody's sitting there with a gun forcing you to buy an Alexa or whatever, but it would be nice to for companies or for Silicon Valley when we talk about tech to to take into consideration other
Buy this book.
Wow, see, that was brilliant. Silas
We got the
Merlin
plug-in.
Silas Merlin in the chat actually says text to speech would be nice, and there has been talk of implementing that.
That would be great. I would love it if there was a text-to-speech and you had a dialogue bubble above your head.
Absolutely. And this is exactly how I envision it. I've heard people say, though, and I don't know who said it, but they said, "Oh yeah, but now we're in immersive VR and we have headsets and we don't want bubbles and we don't want that kind of clutter. We want to be very much like the real world." And see, but this is exactly what we're talking about. This is kind of, who says that that's what we want? Who says that? Is it a marketing agency or is it?
I'm sure that's what someone wants. And if everybody else has thought bubbles all over their heads because that's what they'd prefer, you're breaking the immersion for that one.
Mm-hmm.
So there's always going to be that competition there.
But I'm saying also in terms of implementation prioritization. I mean, I understand. I mean, when we're talking about platform providers, they're businesses and they need to analyze the market, and then they need to make decisions that sometimes stuff falls by the wayside, which would be wonderful. I completely understand that.
And I think that some of that can happen organically. It did in SL.
That's correct.
There are some sims that I go to where everybody voice chats, and there's other sims where nobody does.
And SL has.
I'm happy with switching.
And that's a good point, and that's what I hope, and that's a good note to close on. And that's what I hope for the next iteration of next generation immersive VR, that they go the way Second Life goes, in the sense that Second Life was driven by residents who were building and creating culture. There's always the example of the Radagast viewer, which became a favorite viewer for people who are blind, or who cannot see, or have little ability to see. It's amazing even to contemplate that there are blind people in Second Life, and they can communicate with this Radagast viewer that reads to them the object names, and the people names, and they can hear where they are in space. So this was driven by residents, and let's hope that this happens here too. Yeah,
Hope so.
we're at the top of the hour.
All right, up
You have
top.
the last word. Oh, wait.
Up top, up top.
Well, look what we can do. Amazing, amazing. And I'm flying out to California and meeting Cody, who has cerebral palsy, and he cannot use his arms, and he hates Sansar. He's on the record. I have I have wonderful audio from him where he says Sansar sucks, uh, and
Okay.
and I completely understand it. It has to do with more than just the fact that he has no immediate advantage of where everybody say, "Oh, look at these controllers! It's awesome. You can have sort of motion tracking in real time." Well, he doesn't. He's not able to do that. So he wants animations. He's perfectly happy in Second Life, where he can fire off an incredible library of animations. You know,
Yeah, that's the only place where I can dance.
and so that's again. I mean, I know, and Ebbe is very straightforward with us, and he says, it's a resource game. They can't work at everything at the same time.
Yeah,
I understand
yeah,
that
he's
as well.
right.
They need to
He's right.
prioritize some stuff. But yeah. Kelvin, it's a wonderful. Thank you so much for being here, and thank you for
It's
being.
been great being here.
See, and then we took away
And
some of
thank
the.
you guys. I think I'm pointing at the camera.
Right. Wait. I'm the camera now. Hold on. Here we go.
Okay. Thank you guys for joining us.
And I'm gonna clip that for a commercial. That looks very good. Buy this shirt. But say that again. Go forward with like.
And buy this book. It's a great book. What fun.
Okay, we're gonna cut the stream. Thank you guys for watching, and tomorrow Atlas hopping 11 a.m. as usual, and next week radio hour will be. I don't know what it will be, but we will see. I will be on the road. Virtual Phnom Penh, thank you so much. Daisy, thank you guys. And now people are tuning in. The numbers are exploding because I said it's the end of the show, and that's usually where people are. Well, the YouTube algorithm wakes up and goes like, maybe I should alert some people in Drax to
Thank God that's over.
The YouTube see, that's how far AI has gotten. I mean, they're like, oh, thank God it's over. Let's. Okay, wait. I'm gonna cut here. Hold on, and cut to goodbye and goodbye.